Hi. 6 months from now, you will either be the same person living the same patterns or you will be someone you barely recognize in the best way possible. Psychologist Carl Jung discovered the exact psychological process that determines which one you will be. He called it individuation, and he mapped out precisely how the psyche transforms when you stop fighting it and start working with it. Not in years or decades, but in months, because Jung understood something most therapists won't tell you. Real psychological change doesn't happen gradually, it happens in quantum leaps when you hit specific psychological threshold. I'm about to show you Jung's 6 months transformation protocol, the same process he used with patients who came to him stuck, depressed, lost, and left fundamentally changed. This isn't self help. This isn't positive thinking. This is about triggering the psychological mechanisms that create irreversible transformation. And here is what's different about Jung's approach. You don't change by adding things in your life, you change by integrating what's already there, waiting in your unconscious, trying to transform you. The next 6 months are going to pass anyway. The question is, will you use them to become who you really are? Here is why most people never truly change. They are trying to fix their life without changing their psyche. They rearrange external circumstances, new job, new relationship, new city, but carry the same internal patterns everywhere they go. So, if I explain it in an easy example, it's like you are trying to make tea with the same ingredients and only changing the place. So, changing the place won't change anything. If you want to cook a different recipe, you need to change the ingredients. Young saw this constantly. People would come to him having tried everything, different careers, partners, lifestyles, but nothing changed because they were the common denominator. They were dragging their unconscious patterns into every new situation, recreating the same dynamics, hitting the same walls. You know exactly what I'm talking about. You leave a toxic job only to find the same dynamics at the new one. You end a dysfunctional relationship only to attract the same type of person with a different face. You move across the country only to recreate the same life you were escaping. Young's insight was revolutionary. You don't change your life by changing your circumstances. You change your lifestyle by changing your relationship with your unconscious because your unconscious is running 95% of the show. And until you make it conscious, you are just a puppet thinking you are the puppeteer. But here is what nobody tells you: your unconscious doesn't want you to stay stuck. It actively trying to transform you. Those patterns that keep repeating, they are not punishments, they are messages. Those symptoms you keep experiencing, they are not problems, they are solutions trying to happen. That life that feels wrong. It's your psyche screaming for transformation. The question is, are you doing or are you going to spend the next 6 months fighting your unconscious or working with it? Because that choice determines everything. Young said, you can't change what you can't see. So the first 2 months are about making the unconscious conscious, specifically meeting your shadow. Your shadow isn't your bad side, it's every part and very important part of yourself you have rejected to be acceptable. The anger you suppressed to be nice, the ambition you hid to be humble, the sensitivity you buried to be strong. All of it went into your shadow, and from there, it's controlling your life. Here is Young's method for mapping your shadow in 60 days. First, identify your triggers. For 2 months, track every strong emotional reaction you have to other people. That person who infuriates you, the trait you can't stand, the behavior that makes you irrationally angry. Write it down. That aren't observations about others, they are your shadow showing itself. The arrogant person you hate is showing you your disowned confidence. The needy person who disgusts you is revealing your rejected vulnerability. The selfish person who triggers you is pointing to your suppressed self care. Your triggers are your shadow's GPS coordinates. Second, track your projections. Notice when you are absolutely certain someone else is wrong, bad, or problematic. The stronger your conviction, the more likely you are projecting. Young discovered that we don't see others clearly. We see our unconscious material projected onto them like they are movie screens. One of Young's patients spent 2 months tracking his triggers and discovered something shocking. Every person he labeled as weak was actually showing incredible strength and vulnerability, something he had completely rejected in himself. His hatred of weakness was actually hatred of his own suppressed need for connection. Third is examine your admiration. Your shadow isn't just negative traits, it's also positive quality you have disowned. The people you put on pedestals, the qualities you admire but think you could never have. That's your golden shadow. You have projected your own potential onto others. For these 2 months, you're not trying to change anything. You are just mapping. You are creating a psychological inventory of all the parts of yourself you have rejected. Because Young discovered that just seeing your shadow clearly begins to change everything. By the end of the month, too, You will have a complete map of your unconscious material. You will know exactly what you have been projecting, exactly what you have been suppressing, exactly what's been controlling you from the shadows. And that's when the real work begins. Now that you have mapped your shadow, months 3 and 4 are about integration. Young's approach here was revolutionary. You don't fight your shadow or try to eliminate it. You dialogue with it. You befriend it. You integrate it. This is where Young's technique of active imagination becomes essential. You are going to have actual conversation with the parts of yourself you have rejected. This sounds insane until you do it and discover these parts have intelligence, have reasons, have gifts you desperately need. Here is how it works. Take one shadow aspect you have identified. Let's say your rejected anger. Sit quietly, close your eyes, and let this anger take a form in your imagination. Maybe it appears as a fire, a warrior, a child having a tantrum. Don't control it. Let it show itself. Then talk to it. Ask, why are you in my life? What do you need me to know? What gift are you trying to give me? And listen, really listen, not with your logical mind, but with your psychological ear. Young did this with his own shadow material and discovered something profound. His rejected aggression wasn't trying to make him violent, it was trying to give him the power to establish boundaries. His suppressed selfishness wasn't trying to make him cruel, it was trying to teach him self preservation. One of Young's patients, a people pleaser who couldn't say no, spent month 3 dialoguing with her shadow. She discovered a fierce protector she would buried since childhood, a part that knew exactly how to set boundaries but had been labeled mean and exiled. Through dialogue, she didn't become mean, she became boundaried. The shadow quality transformed through integration. Month 4 is about practical integration. You take these shadow qualities and consciously express them in small, controlled ways. The person who rejected anger practiced firm boundary setting. The one who suppressed ambition takes one small step toward a personal goal. The individual who denied sensitivity allows themselves one moment of vulnerability daily. You are not become your shadow. You are reclaiming the energy trapped in it. Every quality you integrate returns power to you. Every rejected part you befriend stops sabotaging you from the unconscious. By the end of the month 4, you are not the same person. You have access to energy and qualities you haven't felt in years, maybe decades. You are more whole, more powerful, more authentically yourself. But Young knew this was just preparation for the real transformation. The final 2 months are where everything changes. Young called this the activation of the transcendent function, where your conscious and unconscious minds stop fighting and start collaborating to birth a new you. By month 5, you have mapped your shadow and started integrating it. Now, something remarkable happens. The tension between who you have been and who you are becoming reaches a critical point. Your old identity can't hold all this new material. Your ego structure starts to crack. This is terrifying and exactly what needs to happen. Jung called it death of the ego. Not literal death, but the death of your false self, so your true self can emerge. Month 5 is about holding this tension without trying to resolve it. You are simultaneously the person you have always been and the person you are becoming. You hold both without choosing. This creates unbearable psychological pressure, like being pregnant with yourself. Jung discovered that when you maintain this tension consciously, without escaping into old patterns or forcing premature resolution, your psyche does something miraculous. It creates a third option, a new identity that includes everything you have been, but transcends it. Here is what this looks like but practically. You will face situations where your old self would react one way and your emerging self wants to react differently. Don't choose. Hold both responses, feel the old pattern and the new possibility simultaneously. Sit in that impossible tension. One of Young's patients described months 5 as living between worlds. She was no longer the people pleaser she was, but not yet the boundaried person she was becoming. Every interaction required holding this tension. Every decision was a birth pain. Month 6 is when the new you crystallizes. Young called this the birth of the self, but fundamentally different organizing principle for your psyche. You stop being driven by what others think, what society expects, what your trauma programmed. You start being driven by something deeper, true, more essentially, you. This isn't gradual, it's sudden. One day in month 6, you wake up and realize you are different at a cellular level. Situations that used to trigger you don't. Patterns that controlled you for years simply stopped. You make decisions from a place you didn't know existed. Young experienced this himself and wrote, I am not what happened to me, I am what I chose to become. But this choosing isn't from the ego, it's from the self that emerges when conscious and unconscious unite. Throughout all 6 months, Young insisted on 2 daily practices that accelerate transformation: dream work and synchronicity tracking. Every morning, write down your dreams. Don't interrupt them logically, feel into them psychologically. Your dreams are your unconscious mind's direction communication. They are showing you what's transforming, what's resisting, what's emerging. Young discovered that as you progress through these 6 months, your dreams change dramatically. Month one dreams often involve being chased, your shadow trying to get your attention. Month three dreams are future confrontations, you facing rejected parts. Month 5 dreams are often about death and birth, your ego dying and self emerging. Month 6 dreams frequently involve arriving somewhere new, your psyche confirming transformation. But here is what's crucial, don't just record dreams, dialogue with them. Ask dream figures what they represent. Re enter dreams in active imagination and change outcomes. Your dreams aren't just messages, they are interactive transformation tools. Alongside dreams, track synchronicities, meaningful coincidences that seem impossible relevant. As you transform, synchronicities increase dramatically. The book that falls off the shelf with exactly the message you need. The person who appears with the answer to your question. The opportunity that emerges just as you are ready for it. Young believed synchronicities weren't coincidences, but evidence of the collective unconscious responding to your individual transformation. As you change internally, external reality recognizes to match your new frequency. One patient documented synchronicities throughout his 6 months and noticed something very surprising. Month 1, maybe one synchronicity weekly. Month 6, multiple daily. His transformation was literally changing how reality responded to him. Keep a synchronicity journal, not to prove anything, but to stay aware that your transformation isn't just internal. You are not changing in isolation. You are changing in relationship with everything. These are not superstitious practices. You are psychological technologies for maintaining conscious contact with your unconscious through our transformation. They keep you aligned with the deeper process, especially when your ego wants to abort mission. Young discovered something that should both terrify you. Around month 4, transformation becomes irreversible. You hit what he called the point of no return, where you can't go back to who you were even if you wanted to. This is why most people unconsciously sabotage their growth around month 3. They sense the point of no return approaching and panic. The ego realizes it's about to lose control permanently and creates crisis, drama, and reasons to stop. You will know you are approaching this threshold when everything in your life starts breaking down. Relationships that worked with your old self stop working. Jobs that fit your false identity become unbearable. Everything that was built on your unconscious pattern starts crumbling. This isn't failure, it's success. Your old life is dying because it was built on false foundation. It has to collapse for real life to emerge. Young called this necessary destruction the night sea journey. You have to go through darkness to reach dawn. But here is what's powerful. Once you pass the point of no return, the transformation completes itself. You don't have to force anything. The psychological momentum you have built carries you through. Your unconscious and conscious minds are now working together toward the same goal, your individuation. Young watched hundreds of patients hit this point. Some turned back, choosing familiar suffering over unknown transformation. But those who continued, they emerged as fundamentally different people, not improved versions of themselves, new selves entirely. One woman described crossing the point of no return. I woke up one day and couldn't remember how to be who I used to be. It was like trying to fit into clothes from childhood. Not only did they not fit, I couldn't understand why I ever wore them. This is the gift and curse of real transformation. I don't get to keep your old life and add improvement. You have to let your old self die completely for your new self to be born. And once that death begins, around month 4, it completes itself, whether you are ready or not. Let me tie this together because Young's 6 months protocol isn't just a theory, it's a precise psychological process. Months 1 to 2, you map your shadow, discovering all the parts of yourself you have rejected. You can't change what you can't see. So, first, you make the unconscious conscious. Months 3 to 4, you dialogue with the and integrate your shadow through active imagination. You reclaim energy and qualities you have been projecting onto others. Month 5 to 6, the transcendent function activates. Your old identity dies and your true self is born. You become you who you actually are, not who you have been programmed to be. Throughout, you track dreams and synchronicities, maintaining conscious contact with your unconscious. You stay connected to the deeper process even when your ego resists. This isn't about becoming a better version of yourself, it's about becoming yourself for the first time. Young discovered that most people live their entire lives without ever meeting who they really are. They die having lived someone else's life, someone else's values, someone else's dreams. But in 6 months, if you follow this process, if you don't turn back at the point of no return, you can reverse decades of false living. You can integrate your shadow, activate yourself, and start living from your true center. Here is what you need to decide right now. Are you willing to let who you have been die so who you are meant to be can live? Because that's what the next 6 months offer. Not improvement, but transformation. Not better circumstances, but a different you, experiencing circumstances differently. Not a new life, but a real life. Maybe for the first time, Young proved his transformation is possible for anyone willing to do the psychological work. Not the surface work of habits and goals, but the deep work of shadow integration and individuation. Not the ego work of becoming successful, but the soul work of becoming yourself. The next 6 months are going to pass whether you transform or not. You will either be sitting here 6 months from now with the same patterns, same problems, same sense that you are living the wrong life, or you will be someone you can barely remember not being. Someone who is integrated their shadow, found their self, and started living from their true center. The process I have outlined isn't easy. Mapping your shadow is uncomfortable. Integrating rejected parts is destabilizing. Letting your false self die is terrifying. But Young discovered something crucial. This discomfort is temporary, but the transformation is permanent and beneficial. Once you have integrated your shadow, it's integrated. Once you have integrated your shadow, it's integrated. Once your self emerges, it doesn't go back into hiding. Once you have individuated, you can't unindividuate. The you that emerges after 6 months is stable, real, unshakable. You don't need perfect circumstances to start. You don't need more time, money, or support. You need willingness to face yourself, dialogue with your shadow, and let transformation happen. Your psyche already knows how to do this. Young have just gave us the map. 6 months, that's all it takes to change everything, not through force, but through integration, not through doing more, but through becoming whole. The clock starts when you decide it does. If you are serious about this 6 months transformation, please subscribe my channel and I'll show you how exactly to dialogue with your unconscious and accelerate your transformation. Remember, 6 months pass very quickly. Make them count. Your real life is waiting on the other side of this process. Thank you so much for giving your time.